The day my sister-in-law showed up at my doorstep with tears streaming down her face, I knew my life would never be the same. What I didn't know was that helping her would lead to the most unexpected turn of events, one that would challenge everything I thought I knew about family, forgiveness, and finding love in the most unlikely places. If you're wondering whether second chances are real, stick around until the end. Trust me, you won't see this coming. Before we dive in, if you're enjoying these real life stories that prove truth is stranger than fiction, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support means everything, and there are plenty more stories where this came from, too. My name is Daniel Reeves, and 3 years ago, I became a single father to my daughter Lily when my wife Melissa walked out on us. She claimed motherhood wasn't what she expected, that she needed to find herself before she could be the mother Lily deserved. I was left with a mortgage, a demanding job as an architectural engineer, and a confused 2-year-old who couldn't understand why mommy wasn't coming home. The first few months were a blur of sleepless nights, rushed mornings, and the constant fear that I was failing my daughter. I'd never felt more alone, more overwhelmed, or more determined to make it work despite everything. "Daddy, when is mommy coming back?" Lily would ask, her small voice breaking my heart each time. "Mommy needs some time away, sweetheart," I'd say, holding her close. "But I'm here. I'll always be here." I cut back my hours at work, found a daycare close to my office, and learned to braid hair by watching YouTube tutorials at 2 a.m. I became both mother and father, determined that Lily would never feel the absence of love in her life, even if she felt the absence of her mother. Melissa's family had always been close to us. Her parents lived a few hours away and visited when they could, but it was her sister, Claire, who had been a constant presence in our lives. Claire was 2 years younger than Melissa, with the same honey, blonde hair, but a warmth her sister had always lacked. She'd been Lily's favorite aunt, the one who brought the best birthday presents and knew all the silly songs that made my daughter giggle uncontrollably. After Melissa left, Claire disappeared from our lives too. No calls, no visits, no explanation. It hurt more than I cared to admit. Not just for Lily, who asked about her aunt almost as often as she asked about her mother, but for me too. Claire had been a friend, someone I could talk to, someone who understood the complexities of dealing with Melissa. Her absence left another hole in our already fractured lives. Then, 18 months after Melissa walked out, there was a knock at my door on a rainy Tuesday evening. I opened it to find Claire standing there, soaked to the bone, her eyes red from crying. She looked thinner than I remembered, with dark circles under her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. "Daniel," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I'm so sorry. I should have been angry. I should have shut the door in her face." But something in her expression stopped me. This wasn't the confident, bubbly Claire I remembered. This was someone broken, desperate. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. "Lily's already in bed." She walked in hesitantly, as if expecting me to change my mind. I handed her a towel and made coffee while she dried off, neither of us speaking. The silence was heavy with unspoken words, with 18 months of absence. "I should have come sooner," she finally said, cradling the mug between her hands. "I wanted to, but Melissa." "Melissa what?" I asked, more sharply than I intended. Claire looked up, her eyes meeting mine. "She told me you didn't want me around. That you blamed our family for what happened, that you said horrible things about us to Lily." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "And you believed her?" "I didn't want to," Claire whispered. "But she's my sister. And after everything with our parents' divorce, she was the one who was always there for me. I thought I owed her my loyalty." I took a deep breath, trying to process this new information. Melissa had always been manipulative, But this level of calculated cruelty was new. She hadn't just abandoned her daughter. She'd actively worked to isolate her from people who loved her. What changed? I asked. Why are you here now? Claire's hands trembled slightly as she set down her mug. I saw her last week. She's living in Seattle now, with some tech entrepreneur. She seemed happy. When I asked about Lily, she changed the subject. When I pressed her, she said she was taking a break from motherhood, but would get back to it when Lily was older and more interesting. The casual dismissal of our daughter made my blood boil, but I stayed silent, letting Claire continue. I realized then that everything she'd told me was probably a lie. I've spent the last week trying to work up the courage to come here, to face you, to see if there was any chance you'd let me back into Lily's life. I studied her face, looking for any sign of deception, but all I saw was genuine remorse and fear. Lolly asks about you, I said finally. She still has that stuffed unicorn you gave her for her second birthday. She calls it Claire, corn. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? She misses you, and you. She asked hesitantly, do you hate me for believing Melissa? For staying away? I considered the question carefully. Did I hate her? There had been moments of anger, certainly, nights when Lily cried for her aunt and I had no answers to give her. But hate? No, I don't hate you, I said honestly. I was hurt, confused. But I understand family loyalty, even when it's misplaced. Relief washed over her face. Can I see her? Not tonight, obviously, but maybe, soon? She'd like that? I said. So would I. That night marked the beginning of Claire's return to our lives. She came over that weekend, bearing gifts and apologies. Lily, with the forgiving heart of a child, welcomed her back without hesitation, throwing herself into her aunt's arms as if no time had passed at all. For me, it was more complicated. Trust, once broken, isn't easily repaired, but seeing Lily's joy at having her aunt back made it impossible to hold on to my reservations. Claire was trying, showing up consistently, offering to babysit, bringing dinner when I worked late, becoming the support system I hadn't realized how desperately I needed. Weeks turned into months. Claire became a fixture in our home again, but something had shifted in our dynamic. Before, she had been Melissa's sister, an extension of my wife. Now, she was her own person in our lives, someone who chose to be there, who earned her place in our small family unit. I found myself looking forward to her visits, not just for Lily's sake, but for my own. Claire was easy to talk to, quick to laugh, and unafraid to call me out when I was being stubborn. She understood the unique challenges of raising Lily, having known her since birth, but she also respected my role as her father, never overstepping or undermining my authority. 6 months after her return, Claire lost her job at the marketing firm where she'd worked for 5 years. Budget cuts, they said, nothing personal. She put on a brave face around Lily, but I could see the worry in her eyes. The job market was tough, and her rent was due. Move in with us. I suggested one evening after Lily had gone to bed. The guest room is just sitting there empty. You can save on rent while you look for a new job, and having you here would help me with Lily. Claire looked surprised. Are you sure? I don't want to impose. You wouldn't be? I assured her. Lily would be thrilled, and honestly, so would I. This house feels less empty when you're here. She agreed, moving in the following weekend. What was meant to be a temporary arrangement quickly became something more permanent. Claire found a new job working remotely for a digital marketing agency, which gave her flexible hours. She was there when Lily got home from school, helped with homework, and started dinner before I got home from work. Our lives fell into a comfortable rhythm. Mornings were a choreographed dance of breakfast preparation, lunch packing, and getting Lily ready for school. Evenings were shared meals, board games, and taking turns reading bedtime stories. Weekends were family outings to the park, the zoo, the children's museum. To an outsider, we probably looked like a traditional family. The comments started subtly at first, Lily's teacher assuming Claire was her mother at a parent-teacher conference. Neighbors referring to us as a couple, friends asking how long we'd been together. We laughed it off initially, correcting the misconceptions without giving them much thought. But the assumptions persisted, and with them came a growing awareness that our arrangement was unusual. Claire was not just my ex-sister-in-law anymore. She was my co-parent, my roommate, my friend. And somewhere along the way, without either of us noticing, she became something more. The realization hit me on a random Tuesday. Claire had taken the day off to care for Lily, who had come down with a stomach bug. I came home from work to find them, both asleep on the couch, Lily curled against Claire's chest, a children's book open on the floor beside them. The sight stopped me in my tracks, not because it was unusual, but because of the wave of emotion that crashed over me. This was my family. Not the one I had planned or expected, but the one I had found. The one that had formed in the wreckage of my failed marriage, built on choice rather than obligation. I stood there, watching them breathe, and knew with absolute certainty that I was in love with Claire. The knowledge terrified me. She was Melissa's sister, my daughter's aunt. There were boundaries, complications, potential for disaster. What if she didn't feel the same way? What if she did, but it didn't work out? What would happen to Lily, who had already lost so much? I kept my feelings to myself, determined not to disrupt the delicate balance we had achieved. But living in close quarters made it increasingly difficult to hide. I found myself noticing things I'd overlooked before. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating, how her eyes crinkled at the corners when she laughed, the gentle way she handled Lily's occasional tantrums. Claire noticed the change in me, the slight distance I put between us, the way I avoided being alone with her for too long. "Have I done something wrong?" she asked one night after Lily was asleep. "You've been acting strange lately." "No," I said quickly. "Nothing's wrong. I'm just tired." She didn't believe me. I could see it in her eyes. But she didn't push, giving me the space I thought I needed. The breaking point came unexpectedly. Claire's parents, who had been distant since Melissa left, decided to visit. They had been skeptical of our living arrangement from the beginning, concerned about appearances and what people might think. Their visit was tense, filled with pointed questions and disapproving glances. "It's not natural," Claire's mother said during dinner. A young woman living with her sister's ex-husband. "People will talk. People already talk," Claire replied calmly. "I don't care." "You should care," her father interjected. "Your reputation." "My reputation is fine," Claire interrupted. "I'm helping raise my niece, supporting my family. There's nothing shameful in that." "Family," her mother repeated, the word dripping with skepticism. "Is that what you call this? Arrangement?" I saw the hurt flash across Claire's face before she masked it with a smile. "Yes, Mom. That's exactly what I call it." After they left, Claire was quiet, withdrawn. I found her on the back porch, staring up at the stars, a glass of wine in her hand. "I'm sorry about them," she said when I sat beside her. "They've always been traditional." "You don't have to apologize for them," I assured her. "And you don't have to defend our situation either." She turned to look at me, her expression unreadable in the dim light. "What exactly is our situation, Daniel? Because sometimes I think I know, and then other times." Her voice trailed off, leaving the question hanging between us. "What do you want it to be?" I asked, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure she could hear it. Claire set down her wine glass, her movements deliberate. "I want to be here, with you and Lily, not as a guest or a temporary solution, but as someone who belongs." "You do belong," I said softly. You've belonged from the moment you came back into our lives." She shook her head slightly. "That's not what I mean, and I think you know it." The air between us felt charged, heavy with unspoken words and feelings too long suppressed. "Claire," I began, then stopped, unsure how to continue. "It's okay if you don't feel the same way," she said quickly. "I understand it's complicated. I'm Melissa's sister, and there's Lily to consider." And I kissed her. Not planned or perfect, but impulsive and honest. Her surprise lasted only a moment before she was kissing me back, her hands coming up to frame my face. When we pulled apart, her eyes were wide, questioning. "I've wanted to do that for months," I admitted, "but I was afraid. Afraid of ruining what we have. Afraid of what it might mean for Lily. Afraid of what people would think." "And now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Now I'm still afraid," I said honestly. "But I'm more afraid of not taking this chance, of pretending I don't feel what I feel." She smiled then, a real smile that reached her eyes. "Witches. I love you," I said simply. "Not as Lily's aunt or Melissa's sister, but as you, as Claire." She leaned her forehead against mine. "I love you too. I think I have for a long time, but I didn't let myself acknowledge it. It seemed too complicated, too messy." "It is complicated," I agreed, "and it will be messy. People will have opinions. Let them," she said with newfound determination. "We know the truth. We know what we've built here." That night changed everything and nothing. We were still the same people, still caring for Lily, still navigating the complexities of our unconventional family. But now we did it together, openly, honestly. Telling Lily was our first concern. We sat her down one Saturday morning, nervous about how she would react. "Lily," I began carefully, "you know how Aunt Claire has been living with us for a while now." She nodded, looking between us curiously. "Well, Aunt Claire and I have realized that we care about each other very much, in a special way." Lily's brow furrowed in confusion. "Like how?" Claire took over, her voice gentle. "Like how people feel when they want to be a family together. Not just friends or relatives, but a family that chooses each other." Lily considered this for a moment. "Like being in love." "Yes," I said, relieved at her understanding. "Exactly like that. Does that mean Aunt Claire will be my mom now?" Lily asked, her question innocent but loaded with implications. Claire and I exchanged glances. We hadn't discussed this aspect yet. "I will always be your aunt," Claire said carefully. "Nothing can change that. But I can also be something else too, if that's what you want. We can figure it out together, over time." Lily thought about this, her small face serious. Then she smiled. "I think I'd like that. Can we have pancakes now?" Just like that, with the simple acceptance of a child, our new reality was acknowledged and moved past. If only adults could be so adaptable. The reactions from others were mixed, as we expected. Some friends were supportive, seeing the happiness we had found. Others were uncomfortable, unable to separate Claire from her connection to Melissa. Claire's parents were predictably disapproving, concerned about appearances and family dynamics. "What will Melissa think?" her mother demanded during a tense phone call. "I don't know," Claire answered honestly. "And frankly, I don't care." She gave up her right to an opinion when she walked away from her daughter. The most surprising reaction came from my parents, who had always been fond of Claire. "It's about time," my mother said when we told them. "We've been watching you two dance around each other for months." "You're not concerned?" I asked, taken aback by their easy acceptance. "About what?" my father replied. "That she's Melissa's sister. Life is complicated, son. Family even more so. What matters is that you're happy. Lily is thriving, and Claire is a good person who loves you both." Their support meant everything, a validation we hadn't realized we were seeking. With my parents' blessing, we felt more confident facing the inevitable challenges ahead. The first real test came 6 months into our relationship, when Melissa suddenly reappeared in our lives. She called out of the blue, saying she was in town and wanted to see Lily. After 3 years of minimal contact, occasional birthday cards and Christmas gifts, but no visits, her sudden interest was suspicious. I agreed to a meeting at a neutral location, a park where Lily could play while we talked. Claire offered to stay home, worried her presence might escalate tensions, but I insisted she come. We're a family now, I told her. We face this together. Melissa was waiting when we arrived, looking much the same as when she left, perhaps a bit more polished, more expensive. Her eyes widened when she saw Claire beside me, Lily between us holding both our hands. "Well," she said, her voice brittle, "this is cozy." Lily, who barely remembered her mother, hid behind my leg, suddenly shy. I knelt down to her level. "Lily, remember we talked about meeting your mom today. This is her." Lily peeked out, studying Melissa with curious eyes. "Hello," she said politely, but made no move to approach. Melissa's smile faltered. "She doesn't remember me. She was 2 when you left," I reminded her, keeping my voice neutral for Lily's sake. "She's 5 now." "Why don't you go play on the swings, sweetheart?" Claire suggested gently. "We'll be right here watching." Lily looked uncertain but nodded, running off toward the playground, after a reassuring smile from me. As soon as she was out of earshot, Melissa's facade dropped. "So this is why you wanted me to come to the park? So you could ambush me with this?" She gestured between Claire and me. "There's no ambush," I said calmly. "Claire is part of our lives now. Lily's in mine." "Part of your lives," Melissa repeated, her voice rising. "She's my sister!" "Yes," Claire spoke for the first time. "I am. And I've been here, Melissa. For 3 years, I've been here while you were. Wherever you decided was more important than your daughter." Melissa's face flushed with anger. "You have no right to judge me. You have no idea what I was going through." "No, I don't," Claire agreed, "because you never told me. You just lied to keep me away from them." "I did what I had to do," Melissa insisted. "And now I'm back. I want to be part of Lily's life again." I studied her face, trying to understand her sudden change of heart. "Why now, Melissa?" After 3 years of almost no contact, she hesitated, glancing away. "I've been doing some thinking. About priorities. About what matters." "And Lily suddenly matters?" Claire asked skeptically. "She's always mattered," Melissa snapped. "I just wasn't in a place where I could be what she needed. And now you are." I pressed. Melissa straightened, composing herself. "Yes. I've changed. I've grown. I want another chance." I looked over at Lily, happily swinging, oblivious to the tension among the adults. "This isn't about chances, Melissa. This is about Lily's well-being. She's stable now, happy. She has a routine, a life that works." "With my sister playing mommy," Melissa said bitterly. "With Claire being there for her," I corrected. "Which is more than you've been." Melissa's eyes narrowed. "I'm her mother. I have rights." The threat was implicit but clear. I felt Claire tense beside me. "Yes, you're her mother," I acknowledged. "And if you genuinely want to be part of her life in a way that's healthy for her, we can discuss that. But it needs to be on terms that put Lily first, not your ego or your feelings about Claire and me." Melissa looked between us, her expression calculating. "You two really think you've created some perfect little family, don't you? Playing house with my daughter, my sister. It's not perfect," Claire said quietly, "but it's real. It's built on love and commitment and showing up every day, not just when it's convenient." Something in Claire's words seemed to hit home. Melissa's anger deflated slightly, replaced by something that looked almost like regret. "I do want to see her," she said, her voice softer. "I know I've made mistakes, huge ones, but she's still my daughter." I nodded, willing to meet her halfway if she was sincere. "We can arrange visits." "Supervised at first," until Lily is comfortable. If you're serious about being in her life, you need to be consistent. No disappearing again when it gets hard or when something more exciting comes along. Melissa looked like she wanted to argue, but instead nodded. That's fair. We spent the next hour watching Lily play, the three of us maintaining a fragile truce. Melissa made awkward attempts to connect with her daughter, who remained politely distant, unsure of this stranger who was supposedly her mother. As we were preparing to leave, Melissa pulled Claire aside. I couldn't hear what was said, but when Claire returned to me, her expression was troubled. What did she say? I asked once we were in the car, Lily safely buckled in the back seat. Claire was quiet for a moment. She asked if I was happy, if this us was worth betraying her. And what did you tell her? Claire looked at me, her eyes clear and certain. I told her that loving you and Lily isn't a betrayal. That family isn't just about blood or obligation, it's about choice. And I choose you both every day. I reached for her hand, squeezing it tightly. We choose you too. Melissa kept her word, at least initially. She began with short, supervised visits, gradually building a cautious relationship with Lily. It wasn't easy. There were missed visits, excuses, moments of tension, but she was trying, in her way. 6 months after her reappearance, Melissa announced she was moving back to our city permanently. She had a job offer, she explained, and wanted to be closer to Lily. The news was met with mixed emotions. While I wanted Lily to have a relationship with her mother, Melissa's increased presence complicated our carefully constructed life. The real bombshell came a few weeks after her move. Melissa filed for joint custody, claiming that now that she was settled and stable, she deserved equal time with her daughter. The legal notice arrived on a Tuesday morning, shattering the peace we had built. She can't do this, Claire said, pacing our living room after we'd put Lily to bed. She abandoned her daughter for 3 years. Legally, she can try, I said, trying to stay calm despite the fear gripping my heart. But no judge is going to give her equal custody after such a long absence. At most, she might get expanded visitation. But why now? Claire demanded. She was barely managing the visits she already had. Half the time she canceled at the last minute. I had been asking myself the same question. Melissa's sudden determination to be a mother again didn't ring true, especially given her history. The answer came unexpectedly, from Melissa herself. She called late one night, her voice slightly slurred, suggesting she'd been drinking. I know you're with her, she said without preamble. You and Claire, playing happy families in the house that was supposed to be mine. Melissa, it's late, I said, trying to keep my voice down to avoid waking Claire. Can we talk about this tomorrow? No, she insisted. I want to talk now. I want to know why my sister gets everything I walked away from. The house, the husband, the kid, the perfect little life. And there it was, the truth behind her sudden interest in motherhood. It wasn't about Lily at all. It was about jealousy, about seeing Claire happy in the life she had discarded. You left, I reminded her gently. You said you weren't ready to be a mother, that you needed to find yourself. I found myself, she said bitterly. And then I found out my sister took my place. Claire didn't take your place, I corrected. She created her own. She loves Lily for who she is, not as some extension of herself or some obligation. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Do you love her? Melissa finally asked, her voice small. Yes, I answered honestly. I do. Another pause. Does she make Lily happy? Very happy. I heard a muffled sound that might have been a sob. I really messed up, didn't I? Yes, I said, not unkindly. But that doesn't mean you can't be part of Lily's life in a positive way. Just not by forcing your way back in through the courts. The custody filing was withdrawn the next day. Melissa continued her visits with Lily, but with a new approach, less demanding, more genuine. She stopped trying to compete with Claire and started focusing on building her own relationship with her daughter. It wasn't an easy road. There were setbacks, arguments, moments of tension. But gradually, we established a new normal, one where Melissa was Lily's mother. Claire was a maternal figure who loved her deeply, and I was the father who held it all together. A year after Melissa's return, Claire and I were married in a small ceremony in our backyard. Lily was our flower girl, proudly scattering petals down the makeshift aisle. To everyone's surprise, Melissa attended, sitting quietly at the back, her presence a tacit acceptance of our unconventional family. After the ceremony, she approached us, looking uncomfortable but determined. "Congratulations," she said, the word clearly difficult for her. "You two, you're good together." "Thank you," Claire replied, equally awkward. "It means a lot that you came." Melissa nodded, then turned to me. "You've built something good here. Something I couldn't have given either of you." Before I could respond, she walked away, leaving us stunned by her unexpected grace. Later that night, after the guests had left and Lily was asleep, Claire and I sat on the back porch, the same spot where we had first acknowledged our feelings for each other. "Did you ever imagine we'd end up here?" she asked, leaning against my shoulder. "Never," I admitted. When Melissa left, I thought my life was over. I couldn't see past the next day, the next challenge of raising Lily alone. And now, I looked at her, this woman who had come back into our lives when we needed her most, who had chosen to love us despite the complications and the judgment. "Now I can see everything," I said. "A lifetime of mornings and bedtime stories and family dinners, school plays and graduations and holidays. All of it with you." Claire smiled, her eyes reflecting the string lights we'd hung for the wedding. "One eye showed up at your door that night, soaking wet and terrified you'd turn me away. I was just hoping for forgiveness, for a chance to be in Lily's life again." "You got more than that," I said, pulling her closer. "I did," she agreed. "And when you said I'd earn more than thanks, I knew I wasn't stopping there. I wanted to earn my place in your lives every day." "You have," I assured her. "1,000 times over." As we sat there, newlyweds looking out at the yard, where we'd just promised our lives to each other, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. The pain of abandonment, the loneliness of single parenthood, the unexpected joy of finding love in the aftermath of loss. None of it had been easy. All of it had been worth it. 5 years later, our family has grown. Lily is now 10, a confident, compassionate girl who navigates her unique family situation with remarkable grace. She has a 3-year-old brother, Ethan, who knows Claire as Mom and Melissa as Aunt Mel, a compromise that somehow works for all of us. Melissa has found her own path, remarried to a kind man who accepts her complicated past, and her ongoing relationship with her daughter. She visits regularly, takes Lily for occasional weekends, and has become, if not a friend, then at least a peaceful presence in our lives. Claire's parents eventually came around, won over by the undeniable evidence of our happy family, and Claire's unwavering certainty that she had made the right choice. My parents doted on both grandchildren equally, having embraced Claire as the daughter they never had. As for Claire and me, we continue to choose each other every day, grateful for the twist of fate that brought her to my doorstep on that rainy night. What began as an apology became a friendship, then a partnership, and finally a love story unlike any other. Sometimes the most beautiful things grow from the most broken places. Sometimes family is what you're born into, and sometimes it's what you build from the ruins of what came before. And sometimes, when you think you're just offering thanks, you end up offering your heart instead. If there's one thing I've learned from our journey, it's this: second chances don't always look the way you expect them to. Sometimes they come disguised as complications, as messy situations, as impossible choices. But if you're brave enough to embrace them, they can lead to a life more beautiful than anything you could have planned. So if you're watching this and wondering if your own complicated situation has a happy ending waiting somewhere, I'm here to tell you it might. Not without work, not without pain, not without moments of doubt, but possible nonetheless. Because when Claire said I'd earned more than thanks, and I said I wasn't stopping, neither of us knew exactly where we were headed. We just knew we were going there together. And in the end, that's what matters most. If this story touched your heart, or reminded you that families come in all shapes and sizes, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me continue sharing these real life stories that remind us all that hope can be found in the most unexpected places. Until next time, remember that sometimes the most beautiful chapters of your life are the ones you never planned to write.